Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. So, first off, my name is Carlos Walker. We're here with the great Zach Tate.
Yes,
Nice
sir.
to meet you, bruh.
Nice to meet you as well.
So, before we start, if you will, share a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Uh, Great Zach Tate, best-selling author, motivational and inspirational speaker, screenwriter, greatest writer of our generation, um, savior of the world, man, poor righteous teacher.
I like the way you talk. I love the way you talk. So, let's go ahead and I guess we'll start. So, prior to prison, who were you?
That question is kind of twofold because you have my image and then you have my true self, right? So, the image of who was I was raised by gangsters, and it was my intention to be more dangerous and richer than the gangsters that raised me. So I ended up being more dangerous, but not richer than them. But I did pretty well for myself in terms of street standards. At the same time, I was growing. Part of my life was a Christian household and had a God-fearing mother. And as I said, poor righteous teacher at the same time, and leader of many, and living in a world of destruction while owning businesses and things of that nature, music industry, things of that nature, till I went away in 1991.
Okay. So, share a little bit, I guess, about you. You've shared a little bit about your background, but tell me, how did you end up where you were or in the streets?
Well, I grew up in the war zone of the Bronx, New York.
Okay.
I was born in 1970. So in the 70s was a heroin epidemic. In the 80s was the crack epidemic. And I had a job since I was 7 years old in the family business.
Mm.
So I was basically running that business by the time I was 12. And my dad, who was also, like I said, a hustler and a gangster, he owned a lot of businesses and put me in a authoritative role as a child. So when my pops went to the feds and I got tired of getting jerked on the family business, I just utilized my smarts and applied it to the streets. And in the streets, my mindset was I always put my team in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was for the team. Everything was for the crew. Everything was about the block. And, we made a lot of money, but we did not invest wisely. We did not, think it ever was going to end and things of that nature. And then, what to answer your question accurately, what drew me to it was I needed image maintenance. I needed something so I had the right car, had the right woman, spend the right money, had the right clothes, because I didn't have value in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the things that I own gave me value. Not any different than today's generation.
Kind of to the what is the quote? Uh, money. Hold on. How I go? Money don't make the man. Man make the money. But at the
Yeah,
same time, when you're young, it's we think the money makes the man,
yeah, we do.
not the man makes the money.
Yeah, because even in today, you see a lot of guys that are super corny and like I try to use Floyd Mayweather as the symbol of this. Like you got all the money in the world, but we never see happiness on you, and you look super corny, but you got a lot of money, right?
Got a lot
So
of bread.
you making the money, but when it comes to demonstrating like what a man's man is, we don't really see that out of him. So there's a lot of individuals, I like to say a lot that there's a lot of rich suckers, there's a lot of rich lames, there's a lot of rich boys who portray to be as men, because they make the money, but they don't know how to be men. And from our era, our times, and our conditions, whatever you claim to be, you was gonna be tested.
Hmm. So we'll go ahead and shift it. So if you don't mind me asking, how did you end it, or how much time did you end up doing?
I ended up doing 20 years to life for a homicide.
Okay.
In that homicide, well, I was accused of many homicides. However, I, I I lost at trial to a homicide where somebody pulled the gun out and put it to my head, and I took it away from him. And he eventually died. And I was offered a 2 to 6, but I had this mindset that gangsters don't cop out. We influence the jury, and I thought I was like a little John Gotti, and I was just lying to myself, smoking way too much weed, and completely delusional about my reality. And I learned very quickly that criminal justice system and them dumbass jurors be half asleep. They don't care about none of that. And they will convict your ass in a second. And that's exactly what happened to me. However, what I can say is the way that I was violently out of control, God gave me the exact amount of time that I needed to be able to make the transition. Because anything less, I'd have been back on the streets going crazy.
Uh, just to your point, I like to say, kind of like baking a cake. You being the cake, and what God knows is if I pull you out too fast, you're gonna fall.
Absolutely.
If I leave you in too long, you're gonna burn up and get dry.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
God's timing is perfect.
God's timing, the perfect planner.
And while 20 years for any man seems crazily long and difficult, and the things that you had to deal with, we'll get to that. Most of the what you seen, what you dealt with in a minute. Timing is perfect. It don't feel like it when you're going through it. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have towards you, not to harm you, but to prosper you and give you an expected end. It feels like harm in the beginning there because he tell you it's not to harm you. And I'm pretty sure the time that you received, man, it felt like harm half the time.
Most of the time, all of the time. And I tell people all the time that when it comes to the time that I did, if anybody knows me personally, if I tell them how I was living in prison, they'll say it's all cap. Ain't nobody was living like that. And even I had it the best that you can have it in the entire prison system in America. And I hated every day of it because when I went in, I refused to be a convict. I refused to be an inmate. I refused to be a prisoner. I refused to maintain that mindset, get into that world. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to survive, right? And who you were from the streets kind of make it work for you in there sometimes too. So I'm gonna do what I got to do to survive. But for me, I'm the guy that stayed connected to what was going on the outside, stayed on the phone, stayed reading, nonstop reading all day, every day, night, like always building on what's going on in society, what did the changes on. So that made it worse. And then to be married, I had multiple wives while I was incarcerated because we had conjugal visits.
Yeah, because you was in New York.
Right. So
Yeah.
the minute any lady I was dealing with, the minute she like felt like she couldn't do it or wouldn't abide by my law, you had to go, and I bring someone else in. You're gonna play the role of the wife. So even with that, you know what I mean? It's like extremely difficult because you're trying to live two lives when you trap behind a wall.
Mm.
And when you seeing so many people die, I was having this conversation this morning. If they would have told me, they told me you're gonna die, the life you live in, you're gonna die, or you're gonna go to prison, right? They didn't tell me you can get shot in prison.
Mm.
They ain't tell me that there's people waiting to stab you multiple times in your body organs, and they gonna feel good about it. They ain't tell me how many dudes was dying in
In
prison.
prison.
They ain't tell me that correctional officers will beat the life out of you and leave you to rot and never take you to the hospital. They ain't tell me that a flu can
I
kill
kill you.
you because they're not going to call you for sick call or get a nurse to you because they hate you. They ain't tell me how they could play games with your family and make them never want to come see you because you're never available. They ain't tell me, like, when your moms die, your family die, what it's going to be like and
You
how
might
you.
not even be able to see him.
They ain't tell me that my oldest son don't want to talk to me to this day because he feel abandoned. They ain't
Mm.
tell, they ain't tell me all that. So somebody would have said, no, 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 no. You could die, go to jail, or die in jail. I would have really probably really reevaluated my situation.
Mm.
So, you know, it I tell like kids when I go to schools and I talk to these kids, I tell them how much time I had. I don't know if you're familiar with Wallow.
Yeah. No, look,
Right, right.
I'm going to be honest. He's one of my biggest inspirations, man.
Okay, so I could have came home and ran around doing what Wallow's doing, right? And what I do is when I do speeches, when I do sermons, when I do any type of public speaking, I mention the time I did last
Mm.
because I was so embarrassed by it for years because I had the mentality, the mental intellect and wherewithal to be anything I wanted to be in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, everybody can't say that, but for me, I could have been anything if I
Mm-hmm.
had the right guidance. So to be sitting in a prison cell, like this is what we doing, So any more questions?
Oh,
Whatever
no.
your questions are, man.
Oh, look. So, when you got your time, what what was the emotion? If you can remember the emotion, what was the emotion that was there?
So my situation was a lot different because I was street rich and I blew trial from the, which for your viewers don't know what that means. That means I was fighting my case while on bail.
Mm.
So when I was pronounced guilty, that morning I was in bed with my first wife, who is one of the biggest iconic rap stars there is out there. I just left my bed with her that morning. So now you taking my freedom. And I told the judge, I said, it's all right, I'll be back. Or you'll be dead before I leave this prison system. So he ended up dying. I ain't kill him. I had nothing to do with him dying. He died of natural causes. But my arrogance, my my delusion, my state of mind was like, there's no way I'm gonna stay in prison this long. I was in denial. I was in denial. And I was appealing all the way to my like 18th year.
Mm.
$116,000 later in legal appeals, and I never won one. You know what I mean? But in my mind, it was like they are not keeping me in here. There's no way I'm staying here. So when I got that time, I did not feel like my life is over.
Okay.
But the ironic thing is, when I blew trial, I had already paid for my casket. I already took care of my funeral arrangements. I already had taken care of all that. You know what I mean? Because the lifestyle I was engaged in and what I planned on doing, if I would have won the case, I knew I would have died in a hail of gunfire, right? And 13 attempts on my life, shot on 2 separate occasions, was paralyzed, learned how to walk again. I had a situation where more than 50 bullets went in the car and I ain't get hit with none. You know what I mean? And things like that, like you said earlier, man, when God got a plan for you and God got his hand on you.
Look, no devil in what the word says, no weapon formed against me should prosper.
Right, but it don't mean they ain't gonna form.
It didn't mean it ain't gonna form, and it don't mean that they won't hit you. It just means
That's right.
it
Woo!
will not take your life.
That's right.
Prosper, it ain't gonna stop you from being who
That's
you are
right.
meant to become,
Right.
and what God's perfect plan is for your life.
Amen.
You went to prison. You're sitting in there. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the things that you've seen. You just went through a plethora of things that they did not tell you that would happen. That gunshot, that's technically them stabbings. How a person can poke holes in you. They didn't tell
I
you.
got poked.
No. But to me, that's the gunshot.
Yeah, I
And
got
then
poked. Oh no,
all
but
of the
in the prison I was in, they had guards that was in the gun tower shooting and killing dudes in the yard.
Oh, you was at a penitentiary. You was at a high level prison.
Yeah, maximum security prison.
Okay, so this is what you talking about. But
Right. My introduction to the max yard, on the way to the yard, they put a half a scissor in the back of this Chinese dude's head. And he was standing there with his hands in his pocket, with the scissor lodged in his brain, standing on his feet, dead. And they used to bang on the walls for you to walk. So it's like 100 of us, the whole cell block going to the yard, everybody just walking around this dude until his body dropped. That's my first time going to that prison yard. I was just home less than 90 days. And now I'm witnessing this. Brother, I don't care. I thought I was the biggest gangster in New York. When I got in that prison and seen that, I was like, oh no, this is crazy. Dudes was getting in beefs. This is 1991 in New York State.
It's
Right?
raw.
Dudes is getting in beefs. Dudes is tying their hands together from ripping the corner of the sheet, tying their hands together, handing the dude a knife, and they just knife fighting with each other, making sure they can't go nowhere because they tied together. Somebody gonna die.
Somebody gonna die.
And then I'm on the yard with certain dudes that's like, yo, man, I'll get with y'all later. And you like, get with you later? Where you going? You can't go nowhere. What are you talking about? And I'm like, yo, where you going? Oh no, I'm gonna go down here and kill Roger. And then he go down there and kill Roger. You like, yo, what the hell? Yo, God, get me out of here. Like, you, I don't care who you are, man. You see it in your soul. You feel it in your soul. You going back, hugging that pillow, crying that night. You can act like you tough, but there's somebody waiting to kill you in there. So and that still applies to this day. Any young person that's hearing this thinking this is history, that's still applying. There's maximum security federal penitentiaries where they killing dudes on a daily basis.
Just to the point where you was talking about the prison guards. There was a white boy at the federal prison that I was at. They got shot and killed on the yard.
That's right.
And like I said, I was thinking more to the nature you was talking about the stabbing being or the knife being the gun, technically, because that is like a gun in there.
Well, that's what they say, right? Go get your gun.
Yeah, that's your weapon.
Oh, you got your gun? All right, let's go. Let's rock. Let's dance.
And
dudes that say, yo, it's a shootout in the yard because there's so many dudes stabbing so many dudes. So yeah, they call it that.
That's where my mind went. But You was talking about literally.
No, I'm talking
You
about
can get
literally.
no. You can get shot. Like I said, I seen a
Yep.
white boy get murked out there because there was knife fighting,
Yep.
and the people shot some. They shot some rounds off the warning shots. He didn't stop. Killed him.
Killed them. Not
Knock
and
his
get a,
block off.
and they get a reward for it.
So you're seeing this, hearing this, around this. When was it when you decided that you wanted to be better, and how did this come about?
My daughter was born right after 9/11. So her her mother worked in the Twin Towers. She didn't go to work that day because she was coming to see me on a conjugal visit. And she was 9 months pregnant. So when my daughter was born, like 4 weeks before my daughter was born, my mindset was, I'm coming home to just tie up rappers. I'm gonna just go state to state, tying up the biggest rappers, rob them, take all their money, right? And when my daughter was born and I held her in my hands and she looked like me, I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. So when my ex-wife was pregnant with my daughter, I said to myself, I need to do something to earn some money because selling dope in prison ain't gonna work, right? So at the time, one of my other ex-wives was dating an author. She's like, yeah, he wrote this book. He a best-selling author. I got off the phone. It's like, I want that book on my bed tomorrow. And you know how word go out in the whole yard. Dude sent the book. I read the book in one night. I was like, if he could write this, I could definitely write better than this. And that's what I did. I wrote my first novel in 3 weeks. We stole a computer, took it to my job in the kitchen, stashed it in the storage closet. They used to lock me in the storage closet. I would write my novel. When it's time for the count, they let me out the closet. I'll go out, do the count, go back in the closet till the next count. So I knocked my first novel out in 3 weeks, sold 30,000 copies, and the rest is history. That just changed my whole life. Like my brother Darren Coleman, he came up, gave me an advance, really nice advance, and was like, yo, I want to publish this, man. Let's go. And that's what we did. And we rocked out. And from that point, I was like, crime is no longer an option. I got options. I got some sense. Everybody told me this is impossible. I couldn't do it. Nobody believed in me. And I did it.
So that was the first book.
As the first book. And I just kept from there, I just kept rocking.
How many books did you actually publish while you was in prison?
While I was in prison, I published 3 books.
Okay, so all of the rest of them.
I published 3 and I ghost wrote 3. No, 4. I ghost wrote 4. No. I ghost wrote 2, 3 while I was in prison.
So you published 3.
Right.
Ghost wrote 3.
Right. And one that I ghost wrote ended up being on the New York Times bestseller list.
So you in there.
I ain't get no money. I ain't get no money off of that though.
Look, you're in there, you're writing books. What other grand things did you do to help the community in there? Because a lot of the people that I have met, that I actually interview, what they do, somehow we become community changers from where we're at. It doesn't start here. It starts where we're at. You become known as the OG. People start looking up to you, start asking questions, and you realize that you got a bigger purpose than just me sitting in prison. It's now time for me to start community activities. Talk to me.
So my first community activity was I started teaching adult basic education. So there was a civilian, Mr. Cook, who had a class, but he was afraid of like hardcore gangsters that couldn't read or write. So I would bring them to my table, and my table had the greatest success rate in the history of that school system, where guys was going from not knowing how to read within 18 months was getting a GED. Because I mean, we was fighting in the bathroom, we was fighting at whatever we needed to, whatever I needed to do to get these dudes to know that they was gonna learn on my terms. That's how we was doing it. And then from there, I took this class, one of my OGs, who helped change my life. He gave me a curriculum, and I altered the curriculum for young dudes. And I started teaching that class called critical analysis. I teach that same workshop right now in homeless shelters, right? But what was profound about that class was I only sought out the head gang members, the dudes with the most amount of time, the toughest and the roughest dudes, and help them understand that they don't really know who they are. And even where they at, they can make an impact.
Come on.
And I remember an officer told me, this system gonna break you. And I told him, I'm gonna break this system before it break me.
Come on.
And from there, to this day, I would say easy, maybe 1,500 men that I changed their life with my curriculum, who came through my classes for like 12 years, came through my classes. And even now, my lady, when we go to New York, she's always surprised by guys like, oh, yo, you changed my life, and boom, 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 boom. And like I said, I don't even wear that as a badge of honor. You know what I mean? It was just what God created me to be. And I learned to use what I had, where I was at, right where, and utilize the resources to be the best that I can be. And that's how I was on it from there.
So this is what I learned. It's not the prison system that changed us.
Nah, hell no.
It's the men that are already there, that have already been through X amount of years and worked on themselves, or they ended up getting another piece of iron being another man that start working with their iron, and we start sharpening one another. And this is how I became who I am, but this is also how you became, but also how you decided to switch gears and start sharpening men. Over 1,500 men that came through your grips that actually got to learn something that they would have never learned had they
Never,
not been in prison.
never. Now check this out. Where I differ with you a little different is that I'm under the belief that there's a spirit
Uh-huh.
that utilizes our body as a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And that spirit is already built
It's already in you.
for certain frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And once it's exposed to that frequency, it feels at home and it connects and attracts that frequency and like frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So to me, every kid, that's why I know I can end gun violence in America.
I promise you.
Because for me, once I send out that frequency to the hard core shooters out there, they're gonna know, they're gonna be attracted to it. Because it ain't gonna be the body, it's gonna be the spirit.
It's the spirit that
That's
drives everything.
I'm gonna put this gun down and listen to the OG right here, because he the only one that can speak my language. Because I'm speaking to his ears and his spirit.
It's I just was broke. I was listening to a pastor, and he said something about relationship. And he broke it down, but he broke it down from the word relate, and it was mind blowing because I've never really looked at the word relationship and broke it down, and
Yeah,
I was like, wow.
Yeah, I teach
Why
that.
didn't I never look at the root word of I don't just, and I'm just gonna use this just to bring it together. You can have sex with a woman, but you might not relate to her. And when you mess around and you find somebody that you relate to, it's different than sex.
So check it
And
out. What I teach in my workshop is a relationship is two people who relate, who's willing to take a ship on a journey.
come on now. And that's the power of this whole, just what you just said. You can't stop gun violence.
I
One, you got
can't.
one, you got to do one thing. You got to believe that you can or know that you can.
I know that I can.
This this right here cancels everything else because now it's God that's going to give you the ability to get in the right rooms, the right places, and in time, what we get to see is this whole thing change because you were called. Many are called, few are chosen, and to be chosen is only you made a choice to get yourself aligned with what God has already told you that you can do. Your spirit is already in tune with everything that you're going to do. So we're going to move this thing forward again. Your original sentence was what?
20 to life.
20 to life. Life being the end, parole being you can go up at 20.
You go up at 20, but you can stay there for the rest of your life.
Yes. So you ended up getting it, what you say you did how long once again?
20.
20. Okay, so you got parole first time.
First board.
Because of the things that you had done. Because of,
No,
talk to me.
because of the will and grace and mercy of God.
Bingo. You know what? I'm with you totally. Look, hey, I got to go with that. I promise you. And
No other explanation.
no other explanation. Now, look, I love the way you answered that. That tells a lot. One, this whole conversation told me a lot about who you are, man of God. Point blank period. And let's talk about since you've been home, because you've been home how long?
13 years.
Okay. You come home. One, what did you feel like before you left prison, knowing that you had got it?
Well, I manifested it to a degree. So everything that I was visualizing, my focus was on making it materialize. By the time I came home, I had two small children.
Okay.
So my objective was to move them out of New York City to upstate New York, get a union job that take care of all my health benefits, and that could pay me close to $100,000 a year. And I did that.
Blessings.
And then for me, my mission was just like, empowering my queen and paying all the bills and doing all the things. But I never took the time out to find me. I never did the things that I needed to do to find out who was I at 41 years old in society. I had never been in that position. I had never been a father in society to two young people. I had never been a husband in society. I didn't know how to do all of that. So I was just trying to figure it out. And it was extremely frustrating.
Mm.
And, I backslid in a certain way that I'm not going to discuss. But I quickly, by the grace of God, again, I quickly readjusted and got around that situation. And I knew for sure then that the street wasn't for me because I'm too violent,
Mm.
right? It's not that I don't know how to get money. It's that I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to bite the bullet when people run off on the plug or do disrespectful things. Like I come from a whole different world. So that don't fit. So let's get focused on being the man who I said I was going to be. But like I said earlier, everything you claim to be, you're going to be tested.
Mm-hmm.
So after I failed the test, I started studying for a
Come
bigger,
on now. I always tell people lesson.
right?
In school, you get a lesson, you get a test, then you get a lesson. Then you leave with the lesson.
Right.
unless you fail it.
Right.
Then you got to go back through the test with the lesson that you already recouped.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So thereafter, I just kept trying to figure myself out. And then there came a point where I realized that if people didn't add to my life, I didn't want them around me, even the person that was sharing my bed. So I sabotaged that relationship. And at 50 years old, I learned how to be happy for the first time in my entire life. When I lost everything is when I learned how to be extremely happy, because I have a saying that says every day without a feed up tray is a great day.
Say that again.
Every day without a feed up tray is a great day. So what is a feed up tray? A feed up tray is when you're in prison and they pile your food into a tray and slide it through a slot inside your prison cell. Because my worst day out here is better than my greatest day in there.
Come on now.
So for me, my attitude of gratitude, don't nothing really matter. A lot of stuff that people be stressing, losing their mind over and going crazy, and them things don't even really matter. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you're not incarcerated, if you're not terminally ill, if you're not dying, if you're not in a casket, then what are we stressing about?
I even realized something on top of all that because every day, and I had to like do a deeper dive to really get the handle of this. While prison, yes, was the worst place I'd ever been, it was also one of the best places I'd ever been, and all of it
One of the
wasn't bad.
one of the best experiences you had.
Yes, it best experience, and all of the experiences wasn't bad.
Nope.
I had great moments in there.
Yep.
Look, moments that I'm gonna be honest, sometimes override half of this because of the people, the men that I was around, and the mental currency that I actually got to build with them. So I had to reevaluate just the whole thing, and I realized that every day is perfect.
If you choose it to be.
If you choose, remember, the mind is the strongest muscle that you have when you learn how to exercise this thing. And the exercise of it make you either see the worst or it makes you see the best of things. And like you said, at the age of 50, it clicked. Now let's share with me some of the things that you do now for this community.
So I left New York, went down to Florida for several years, and then I came back up north, um, in right now in the DMV area. So what I do is I do the workshop, and I've been really working hard towards getting in these prison systems, in these schools. I done sent out more than 100 letters and never got one back. So what I'm realizing in this DMV area is that it's who you know,
Mm-hmm.
and my social skills is impeccable when it comes to being professional, but it's lacking when it comes to being around people who don't have integrity.
Mm.
And I have a very, very low tolerance for people who be like, yeah, yeah, we gonna get up. Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna call you. Yeah, yeah. I have very low tolerance for people who's just faking it till they make it or going through the motions. So
Mm-hmm.
now what one of my therapists said to me is that in DC, everybody's running for campaign.
Mm-hmm.
When they talking to you, it's like they're running a campaign. And if you keep in mind that they running for office, when they talking to you, you can't get disappointed because you know they just trying to get your vote. And I said, okay, that made a whole lot of sense because people just be talking to be talking. They have no intent to do anything about it. It's all buchach. They not really serious. They just talking. So I'm biding my time. I serve a mighty God that when the time is supposed to be right,
It's gonna be perfect.
right? And what's for me is for me, and what is for me can't pass me by.
Say it again. So, to that note, I want to one thank you for all the things that you are doing, because you spoke about the homeless shelter. You're doing workshops. Done been to a few jails, correct? Not, or you ain't been in the prisons or jails yet. You're waiting to get there.
To schools, corporations, homeless shelters, battered women, YMCA's, and a few things on like TV and YouTube, and every day on my Instagram, Great Zach Tate, I put a word out. I put a word out where I'm speaking to the old me.
Come on now.
So that's the way that I educate and teach. Now is I put it on what they addicted to social media. I put it on social media, but to be honest with you, like one of the things that the institutions that I've been through, like I'm not tech savvy,
Okay.
right? And I'm so busy creating that I don't have a team that works on things for me. Because when I dissect little things in a character, I'm not doing this.
You clip them.
So that's one of the what I would say, one of the bad qualities of being in institutions. You don't think you institutionalized to certain degrees, but certain degrees you are, right? It's not always negative,
No.
right?
Every
But
institution. Go ahead.
the code of honor, integrity, and loyalty is just in me. It ain't on me. So when I see it going someplace else, I don't like to deal with people no more. So I'm working on it now, though. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
What I realized, even for me, I realized that most of the institutionalization that I received there, I still use now. I work out every day.
Me too.
I still do artwork. I still write. All of this I got there, and none of it wrong. It's the best thing that actually happened to me. There's some other things that if we had brought most of these things home, which was not smoking, not drinking, not doing just going out sleeping with a bunch of women, and because where I was at you couldn't even do it. What would happen? A lot of people would come home focused on what they do. Because in there you get focused. You read a lot.
Not everybody, but
No, not everybody, but for
right,
those who do, if
right.
you take these things and stay institutionalized with them when you get here, man, you about to be a monster. Now, at some point, I shook off and went back to a few bad habits, but like you said, I had to shake back, and I reverted back to who I was, but out here, and now I'm progressing in a lot better way. So, if you could leave a word of wisdom to anybody, younger you, younger person, older person, that you can give them something that would inspire them, what would it be?
Be careful what you tell yourself, and your words are is casting a spell. So the man who think he can and the man who think he can't, they both right. So you got to be careful what you tell yourself about yourself, and you have to be mindful that your words is casting a spell. You talk negative, it's gonna manifest. You talk positive, it's gonna manifest. That's what I
or,
leave.
or according to the Bible, it says life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Tongue. Amen.
So, with that, man, I thank you, great Zach Tate. I thank you for your words of wisdom. I thank you for your story, because it is important and impactful for stories to be told. If we don't tell who we were and who we are, people don't know when they see you. They'll never know that you did time, that your life was that way at one point, but you are who you are now. You don't carry yourself that way. You don't speak that way. They'll never know who you are until you share with them who you are, or who you were, but who you are. So I
Wow.
thank you for sharing your story. And
Yes,
I
sir.
think that these stories are impactful, not just for the civilians out here, but for the men who are in prison who I'm looking to share these stories with in time. They get to see success. They only got to know that success is within. You only got to become it where you're at. And you get to come out here and be that for everybody else, but
Sure.
really for you. So
Sure.
thank you, bro. Thank you for your service.
Yeah,
Thank you for all the things you do now.
peace to you, my brother. Thank you for the brotherhood.
Man, look,
And let
as
me
you
know.
said,
Let me know when we doing part two.
as you said earlier, God did it.
God did.
Look,
God did.
God did it. Look, hold up
Peace,
real
y'all.
quick because I want to talk with you after this. But this is Forward Progress. This is the Great Zach Tate. My name is Carlos Walker, and this is Forward Progress. Thank y'all.
Peace.